Countdown to Kansas City. This awesome segment that we are doing, we get to take a look back at all the NWSL championships. And this time, we're taking a look back at 2015, the NWSL final. It took place for the first time at a neutral site in NWSL history. It was in Portland, Oregon at Providence Park, and it happened on October 1st, 2015. It was a 6:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff on a Thursday. So not the greatest. Hey, we've gotten better. This year, the NWSL Championship is taking place at CPKC Stadium in Kansas City. You can watch it on CBS, 8 p.m. Eastern in prime time. But in this final in 2015, Sandra, it was Seattle Reign against FC Kansas City. Seattle Reign finished first in the league. They won the Shield for the second time in a row. Kansas City finished third in this regular season standings leading into it. So then the top four teams went into the playoffs. But Kansas City, they had the top goal scorer, and the top assist for their team was Amy Rodriguez, who finished with 6 goals, 4 assists. She was the Utah Royals head coach at the start of this season. Meanwhile, for Seattle, it was Kim Little. The Kim Little show all year in 2015. She was tied for second in the Golden Boot race. She had 10 goals, but she led the league with 7 assists. In the semifinals of the playoffs, Kansas City took on the Chicago Red Stars. FCKC absolutely dominated 3-0. A-Rod had a brace in that match. And then for Seattle, they played against the Washington Spirit in the semis. Seattle also won by a score of 3-0, but all the scoring came at the end of the game, the 71st minute or beyond. And then they were able to shut out for Washington Spirit Crystal Dunn, who ended up being the Golden Boot winner in 2015. She had 15 goals that season. Crystal Dunn in her early years, we'll do an episode on her one day, absolutely electric. Rookie of the Year, Golden Boot winner, a legend. Let's take you through the starting lineup, Sandra. Take us through FC Kansas City and who they rolled out with to start this 2015 final.
Yeah, let's go. They had Nicole Barnhart, Annette Leanne Brown, Amy LaPelbit, Becky Sauron, Becca Moros, Jen Bukowski, Mandy Laddish, Erica Timrak, Heather O'Reilly, and Amy Rodriguez and Lauren Holiday to round out their starting 11. Plenty of familiar names there who had already won an NWSL championship in 2014, but a sprinkling of some new names and really some familiar names to get a shot with Kansas City for a second title.
One of very familiar names, manager Vlatko Adanovsky. They had won the 2014 NWSL championship. So it was a rematch, not only of the teams, but of the managers too, for Vlatko Adanovsky. For Seattle Reign, that team was led by Laura Harvey, but they lined up in goal Hope Solo, Kendall Fletcher, Rachel Corsi, Lauren Barnes, Steph Cox, Keelan Winters, Kim Little, Jess Fishlock, Merritt Mathias, Megan Rapinoe, and Bev Yanez. Absolutely cool to see some of these very familiar names. Merritt Mathias listed as a forward. We now know her as a lockdown defender. She's currently in Angel City playing with them. Haven't seen her in a minute due to some injuries, but it's really cool to look back at some of these names that continue to play and are still in the league, still absolutely balling. We touched on referees last week. Katya Koroleva, who was a part of the 2014 referee crew for the 2014 final, she was now the head referee of this final. So moving on up in the world. Now, this 2015 NWSL final between FC Kansas City and Seattle Reign was a rematch, the sequel to 2014, but things went Kansas City's way again. Kansas City ends up winning 1-0 to Seattle Reign in the 2015 final, clinching back-to-back NWSL championships. The lone goal in this match for FCKC didn't even come until the 78th minute. It was A-Rod, who had led Kansas City all year with her goal scoring, who gets on the board for Kansas City. She uses her head, which didn't always happen for A-Rod this year, but she finds the header back of the net, the assist coming from Heather O'Reilly. I mean, the buildup of this play was absolutely fantastic because it started in the midfield with Lauren Holiday on the ball. She sends it wide to Heather O'Reilly, who then crosses it into A-Rod. And for Kansas City to win this and Vlatko Adanovsky to win it its second year in a row, it's so special. But for midfielder Lauren Holiday, this was her last professional match. She had talked about ahead of the season after the 2015 Women's World Cup that she was going to retire at the end of this year. So not only does she get to retire, but she gets to lift a trophy and play in her final game. Throughout this match, there's one thing that I want to just touch on, the juxtaposition between the 2014 NWSL final, also between Seattle and Kansas City with huge names on their rosters. But in 2015, the attendance had gone up 3 times what it was in 2014. So in 2014, it was 4,252 people at the NWSL final. In 2015, it was 13,265 because the 2015 final had come just a few months after the U.S. women's national team had won the 2015 Women's World Cup. The world was on a women's soccer high, and NWSL tried to continue to ride that through the final. And you see such an influx of attendance in all the players that came out and watched it. But Sandra, we got FC Kansas City winning back-to-back NWSL championships.
You love to see it. And listen, I think it's an important shout that you gave there on the attendance, because for me, as we keep taking this journey through championship finals, this is where we start to see some of the changes come in the league when it comes to this type of event, that they wanted this to be the marquee event of the league at the end of the year. It's the thing that they wanted to celebrate as their Super Bowl. And the attendance note is really, really important, because the first 2 finals we see kind of just go to the higher seed. And then now we start to see finals pivot to a pre-selected sort of neutral territory moving forward in the league. And the honors went to Portland in this game. And so this match not only had tripled in attendance, but it's because of probably the facility that it was able to be held in, and that it's in Providence Park. And so you have that already as a main changing point. But again, I love the fact that it was a repeat of these 2 teams, and one of them being Seattle, because Lisa, this game being in Portland meant that there was a huge turnout for folks who just wanted to tap into their inner hater. I mean, if you look back at this game, listen, everyone has an inner child, but you also have an inner hater. Everybody should feed the hateration every once in a while. And you could see back on some of the footage of this game, you see so much cool support from just like Thorns fans who want to show up and support women's soccer. They want to just show up and support the biggest game in the league. You see River supporters just sort of like having scarves that say like blue for a day, you know, just rooting on Kansas City because they refuse to see Seattle lift the main trophy on their home soil. So I love that. I think it's a great note for you to point out.
Yeah, very cool. Ultimately, Kansas City and A-Rod get the game-winning goal in the 78th minute to give FC Kansas City their second straight NWSL championship in 2015.